Eliot. Okay. So before we talk about Middlemarch, about the text, let us talk about the uh, period. Because before reading this, you must know about the Romantic age and the major poets. And yes, this is also to with the you must know about Romanticism. So the when we talk about the literature of early 19th century, is it is the paramount significance for the contribution of romantic uh, poets in expanding the horizon of English poetry. And among the romantic poets, there are two generations of romantics. The elder of generation, including Wordsworth, Coleridge, Southey, who discarded the revolutionary ideology of French Revolution and expressed their sympathy for the poor peasants. And this the younger group of romantics included Byron, Shelley, Keats, who were inspired by the spirit of revolt. So, being inspired by romantic ideals, they constructed their own world of imagination beyond all crammed conventions of social order, and they expressed the intense passion for liberty, for beauty, and for individual dignity, and to seek a relief. They turned, to Middle Ages, and they were impressed by the tendencies of the medievalism and Hellenism. So we find Romanticism is a confusing term and has invited numerous interpretations and justifications. So you find it is controversially, it denotes the tendencies that stand in sharp contrast to classicism. And you find this is usually this recommends um, the spontaneous display of imagination and the expression of emotion and passion. Just a minute. Yeah. So you find it stands for the qualities of subjectivity, naturalism, humanism, and liberalism. And you find many people have given their critical analysis based on this. So, Romanticism, uh, um, according to one of the critics, Douglas Bush, says Romanticism represents the turning away from reason to scenes, feeling, imagination, uh, institution, primitive, medieval, from the sophistication of the urban society to the natural surroundings of rural countryside, from real to the ideal, from the expression of accepted moral faith to the discovery of truth, from belief in God to belief in man, from established philosophical creeds to established self revelation, from even ideals or orders to the principles of flexibility and freedom, from traditionalism to self conscious originality. All these major elements of romanticism became the integral part of the sensibility and create impulse of John Keats. And you find both of his letters and poems, we can appreciate the qualities of love for beauty, passion, supernaturalism, medievalism. Okay, all these things. So coming to this, you know, mm, mm, the writer George Eliot, you find amongst the galaxy of female novelists that dominated, the literary arena in the Victorian era. um, George Eliot holds an important place. You find she used a male pen name, which was her efforts to be, taken seriously as a writer in a male dominated literary society. Yesterday we were talking about it. Remember?
Yes, sir.
Could one of you, you know, tell a little bit about the Victorian, how females were not given, importance. Male were one. Can one, tell this in short, so that some of them were absent, so that they can, um, they can just get a brief idea. One of you, Tanu, can you say?
Yes, sir. Good morning, sir. Sir, in Victorian period, women were not
Mhm.
given importance. They were always subdued. They were they were not thought as they are the part of the society or family, because that period women were just used as a good or commodity like that, and that much, sir. They were not given proper importance. Thank you, sir.
So can I say?
Yes, Sanjana, go ahead.
Okay. So during that time, during Victorian age, the women were not given as importance as writers because they had certain limitations. Like women had significant role in the house or in the home. Like they were confined to domestic duties and they were seen as inferior to men. And of course, education was one of the crucial criteria because they were education were not so easily accessible to them unlike the men's, and women were limited to them, and which like for which making writing seem unsuitable for them. And also there were certain social norms due to which educations were limited, like social norms like women were expected to prioritize family and domesticity over creative pursuits. And of course, in the field of writing, if we glance, then there are some literally world biases like male dominated publishing, where men controlled publishing houses and making it difficult for women to get published. Then there were use of pseudonyms, like women used male pseudonyms to increase their chances of publication, like we are seeing this George Eliot or George Sand. These were like there, and of course there were genre restrictions, like women were often relegated to writing, like a domestic or romance novels, so which deemed less significance. So like, and there are also certain Victorian women novelists or writers who had published their writings with pseudonyms, like Jane Austen, then Mary Shelley, then Charlotte Bronte, uh, Emily Bronte, George Eliot, like we are reading this. So these are the women novelists who published their writings with pseudonyms, and the basic, most importantly, the challenges that they faced were a lack of recognition. Then they had, of course, limited financial support, and there was social criticism for pursuing unfeminine interests. Mm, apart from this, there were also difficulty finding publishers, because most of the publishers were male, and so uh, there was difficulty in publishers. And also another thing what I believe is stereotypical portrayals of women in literature. uh, Maybe these are the reason, I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Kavita, you would like to add?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Victorian period, especially marked with rigid gender roles, sir. It reinforced the idea that women place was in the private domestic sphere, while men occupies a public sphere. The women were made to be wives, mothers, and caretakers, and there is no access to education. There were no professional opportunities, and there is no public recognition for women. Women, especially considered intellectually inferior and discouraged by men to pursue their careers in writing, academics, and politics. So, male pseudonyms were used by women because of this case of societal barriers. So we can also see one example from Great Expectations. The woman role, she's been subjugated by the male role. She made inferior, intellectually inferior in the whole scenario. Then she will marry other one.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
this.
Uh, okay. So let us come back to the topic now. Um, so you find, you know, her real name was Mary Ann Evans, Marian. Okay, and you find in the hands of George Eliot, novel was not a vehicle for entertainment alone, but rather as a means of revealing the human uh, predicament. So you find well known for her realism and serious discussion of the moral issues. George Eliot is the most, philosophical to all the Victorian novelists, and like George, um, um, Meredith, who uh, who says that she is an embodiment of philosophy in fiction, as Oscar Wilde remarked in 1897. And Virginia Woolf called Eliot Middlemarch as one of the few English novels for grown-up people. So she was 12 in the time of the Great Reform Bill that was in 1832, which forms the historical context of the Middlemarch. So, uh, do you all know Virginia Woolf? How is Virginia Woolf, um, as a feminist? You find her. Hello.
Sir, Virginia Woolf was a, pivotal figure in feminist literature and philosophy, and her feminist ideas were like challenging patriarchal norms, like Woolf
Correct. Correct. Hmm.
and also like Wolf critiqued societal expectations and which imposed on women and advocating for greater freedom and autonomy. Then also there were women's education and economic independence. This is also the factor which she raised. She emphasized the importance of women's access to education and financial self-sufficiency. Then there are points which she highlighted, like reclaiming women's history. Like Ulf highlighted the contributions of women throughout history, uh, like previously overlooked or marginalized. Then she also, raised question on questioning gender roles. Uh, she explored the social construction of gender and challenged traditional notions of femininity and masculinity. And also, she embraced, female experiences. Like Ulf's writing celebrates women's experiences, emotions, and perspective. And for example, we can take few of her feminist works like Mrs. Dalloway,
Yeah.
then
Correct.
to the lighthouse, then a room of one's own. These are some her renowned feminist works, and she got this feminist thought from the second wave feminism. Like she was influenced by this
Can you
thought of
tell about the waves of feminism?
ways of feminism.
Waves.
Okay, acha, waves of feminism. Uh, yes, maybe I would try a bit.
How
Like
many waves are there?
there are first wave, second wave, and third wave, fourth wave. I believe fourth, not fifth. Fifth wave, five waves are there probably. Four,
Four waves.
four waves. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Anyone who could tell about? Okay, Sanjana, thank you. I think. Do you know about the waves? Are you
sir,
sure about the waves?
I can try a bit.
Okay.
I might be wrong, but I can try. Like the first wave was from 1848 to 1920, which focused on suffrage, equal rights, and education. Then the key figures were then uh, means they were like women's right to vote and property rights and economic independence. Then access to education and employment. I'm not sure, but I'm just, maybe this might can happen. So forth, like the second waves, and there were also like the same social, economic, and cultural equality. Then civil rights acts were there, like 1964. Then women's studies programs and feminist literature, and then third wave and fourth wave.
Okay. So basically, we're saying four, but there are three. Means three which have been compartmentalized to the feminist movement. And the first wave of feminism referred to the period activity during the 19th century and the earlier 20th century, when you find in the US and the UK, it concentrated on the establishment of the equal contract, parenting, marriage, along with property rights for women. The second, feminist perceived women's cultural and the political inequities, and as entangled in a common matrix, and women use under this wave were persuaded to see that their personal life remained deeply politicized, and also reflective of the sexist power structures. So, and you find the third wave of feminism surfaced in the early 1990s in the US. You find as a reaction to the perceived of the second waves, and also to the repercussions of the initiative and the campaigns installed by the second wave. So the third wave feminism differentiated itself from the second wave over questions of sexuality, changing challenges to the female heterosexuality, and the celebration of the sexuality as a means to attain female empowerment. So yeah, Prachi, would you like to add something? Prachi, are you there? Hello. Okay, okay. Okay, so anyone else would like to add to this? Anyone?
So
Yes,
I
Anjali.
think what Sanjana meant by the fourth wave is that the one which was like in started around 2000s, like 2012 types. It's about empowering women um, for using technology.
Oh, okay.
It is not that famous as the previous ones
Yeah.
because this is more about empowerment.
Yes, yes, yes. So basically, when we come back to Virginia Woolf, Virginia Woolf's writing is shaped mainly by her, concerns and fascination of the women, and you find their lives and experiences in the patriarchal society. So you find she responded to the double standards offered to women in her own family, and portrayed these issues in her novels. So you find this text to the lighthouse. You find Mrs. Ramsay in the to the lighthouse enacts the gender role, assigned to the mother as well as she could, and the rise of the feminist criticism. You find and theory during the second half of the 20th century that altered, the reception of female writers, including Virginia Woolf. So, so you find that George Eliot, coming to George Eliot's personal biography, um, George Eliot was born in 1819 at Astley near Coventry, and was gifted daughter of Robert Evans. Uh, he was a estate agent for the Earl of Lonsdale, and by his previous marriage, Evans had an older daughter and a son. And at her mother's death in 1836, Elliot was the only woman in the house. at which point she decided her father's housekeeper. So, politically and socially conservative Robert Evans advocated outward religious conformity for Eliot, who was swept up by the non-conformist thinking, even though he was not particularly religious. So, though you find the influence of her school mistress, uh, Eliot, for a time, was an enthusiastic evangelical who favored, Jean Clavin's doctrine of the elect. And you find Eliot's maternal aunt was a Methodist, who communicated her belief in good works and a doctrine of personal salvation that, contradicts uh, Calvinism. So you find when her father retired in 1841, her brother Ishak was given the agency, and she and her father moved to a house in Coventry. So here you find she joined a group of intellectuals such as Charles Bray in their historical study of Bible, and under their influence and um, through her own reading, Eliot grew skeptical, and you find conflict with her father arose when she refused to attend regular the Anglican church worship any longer. But however, you find after some arguments she gave in, and she faithfully tended house for her father until his death in 1849. So now, 30 years old, she was considered long past the normal age for marriage. And in her father's will, she received an annuity of around £1,000, which gave her a certain independence. And her religious, skepticism was tempered by her recognition that her father had simply been too old to alter his views. But gradually you find she developed, and despite her outward conformity in the 1840s, sympathy was any religion that could offer solace for human sorrows. So you find in 1850, Eliot traveled on the continent for the first time in company with the Brays, and upon her return to England, she began writing for the prestigious Westminster Review, for which she was the assistant director in 1851. And now, because she was a member of the London Literary Circle that included, Herbert Spencer, George Henry Lewis, she translated, Essence of Christianity from German, the book, and only bear her real name. So also this time she entered into a common law relationship with her editor, Henry Lewis, whose wife had abandoned him for an extramarital affair. So you find Mary Ann's rejection by her friends and family over her common law marriage with Lewis is reflected in the book called The Mill on the Floss in 1860, uh, published in 1860. And Lewis, deeply sympathized with Mary Ann's, personal, intellectual, and the artistic struggle. So you find it was he who first encouraged her to write, fiction, scenes from clerical life, which was serialized in the Blackwoods magazine in 1857, and he provided her with material and edited her book. And he was a positivist, a follower of the philosophy of Auguste Comte, who had postulated, that there had been three hierarchical ages. So which you find it is the truth from examination of facts. And we find a number of new authors of great power had emerged, which was confirmed by the enormous popular Adam uh, Bede Bede in 1859. And her perspective, you find, and pointed criticism of Austen and Dickens are close to modern attitudes. So you find, you find this is how the text, about George Eliot, the author of the text. And then you find that the relevance to the title Middlemarch, commenting upon the relevance of Eliot's Middlemarch for the grown-up society. We see Virginia Woolf had um, in the common reader suggests that it is a magnificent book that, with all its imperfections, which is one of the few English novels written for grown up people. And it is a reflection of the realistic and the vivid portrayal of the provincial life of England. So the subtitle of the novel, the study of the provincial life, reflects England's changing values regarding social status, medicine, politics, education, philanthropy, and even, very importantly, male and female relationships. So you find Rosemary Ashton in Introduction to Middlemarch remarks that Middlemarch is above all about change and the way individuals and groups adapt to or resist, change. So in their marriages, in their professions, in their family life, and their social intercourse, you find the characters of the novel are chosen, are shown, responding to their various ways to events, both public and private. Are you all getting me? Okay. Then coming to uh, so the action, you find the setting of the novel, the action of the novel takes place in Middlemarch, or neighboring um, parishes of Tipcon, Lowick, and Freshet. So you find, um, A critic, Anderson, points out, saying that it is a landscape of opinion and not any natural landscape. And this is, dominant in the novel. So you find George Eliot's Middlemarch, a study of provincial life, was published in 1871 to 1872. And but this was, set in the years preceding the Reform Bill, which was in 1832. So you find Eliot's purpose in setting her novel, 40 years, prior to the time she wrote it, was to adapt the role of imaginative historians, even scientific investigators, who seek to analyze recent political and social changes by means of a particular human stories she tells, by weaving, together several strands in such a way that an individual's lot is seen to be affected by those historical changes as they happen. Okay, so you find that the pre-reform bill era in which Eliot, situates her novel, was a time of unprecedented social change in England, prompted by the violent revolutions that had, recently swept across Europe. And by setting Middlemarch in the period, immediately before the passage of the first Reform Bill, Eliot was able to situate her characters in a time when the changes they experienced would have been, new and different, perhaps, even exciting. Um, am I clear to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, coming to the characters, do you want me to talk about the characters?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let us go to the characters. Mm, the first character is Dorothea Brooke. Dorothea Brooke, if you find that, although in some ways, Middlemarch does not, center around a single character, or you find Dorothea is the closest to gets to a protagonist, and you find uniquely strong-willed. You find that Dorothea um, is a very passionate and a rebellious. Dorothea is deeply, religious woman, and you find she is also committed to social reform and channels her energies into designing cottages for the tenant farmers on her uncle, Mr. Brooks' estate, and later you find planning a colony for the workers. So you find ultimately, these plans you find uh, do not, transpire in part due to Dorothea's naivety, and you find, and in part due to the significant restrictions which were placed on women in the society in which she lives. So Dorothea is painfully, aware of ways that she doesn't conform the idols of femininity, and she tries to reconcile her grand ambitions with her desire to, better meet this idol through her marriage at 18 to 45 years old Reverend Edward Casaubon. So Dorothea, bitter disappointment in the marriage and in Casaubon as a husband, leave her feeling, tormented and confused, and through her fierce, spirit is never, fully crushed, and when she is 21, Casaubon, dies, leaving all his property to her with stipulation, and that is, it will be taken away if she marries her cousin, Will Ladishlaw, of uh, whom, Casaubon was intensely jealous. So Dorothea and Will are, far more suited to each other due to their shared, earnest, passionate, and convention floating personality. And you find, however, it takes, them to a while, to admit that they are in love with one another, partly, due to the dilemma caused by Casaubon Will. So, although you find Dorothea eventually, ends up happily, married to Will and, the mother of his children, the narrator, comments that it is a shame that for all her ambitions, Dorothea was not able to lead a greater life and leave a more impactful legacy. Okay. Am I clear to you about um, Dorothea?
Yes, sir.
Would you like to add something about the character? Kavita?
Sir, she was
Sanjana? Yes, Sanjana. Yeah.
she had all the qualities of a Victorian protagonist because she was very committed, dedicated, intelligent. She remained chaste to his to his husband because when Will firstly proposed her to get married, then she said that no matter what, how unhappy I am, but I cannot, betray my husband. So I believe that yes, she had limitation as per the age. Eliot portrayed her in the way of how the Victorian women were to be.
Okay.
So I think Victorian women usually chose social image and wealth over love. But this Dorothea, she chose love over wealth in the end. So I think she is a woman who showed the transition of thought process in women towards modernism.
Particularly in that Victorian era.
Yes, because Victorian women were not expected to go against the social standards because that time women chose social image and wealth over love.
Yeah, yeah. Others who would like to add? Why are only, three, four people responding? Why are the others not responding? We have more silent, listeners or observers than participating in the class. Well, next, going to the next character, we have Celia Brooke. Celia Brooke is you know is Mr. Brooke's niece and Dorothea's sister, and you find she's very kind and cheerful, though less intelligent than her sister, whom she struggles to understand. And Celia, finds it easy to conform to the ideals of womanhood upheld in Middlemarch. And indeed, you find enjoys living her life in this way. So she marries Sir James Chatham after Dorothea rejects him, and has a baby named Arthur. Mr. Arthur Brooke is, Mr. Brooke is, Celia and Dorothea's uncle, who is charged with their um, education and care after their parents die young. And he is a lifelong bachelor who traveled, all a lot in his youth. He is generally a friendly and pleasant person, but also rather foolish. So he changes his mind often, and sometimes appears to struggle to understand complicated discussions. So he is also decidedly sexist, and you find Mr. Brooks, decides to run for election as a Whig in Middlemarch and recruits Will Ladislaw to help, with his political campaigns, as well as to take over editing the local progressive newspaper, The Pioneer, which Mr. Brooks, you know, um, which Mr. Brooks, just a minute. Yeah, so you find that he his move into politics get off to a rocky start, as people accuse him of hypocrisy for pushing a social reform agenda when he is known to be terrible landlord. So you find, however, he perceives anyway, and in the finale, it is noted that Mr. Brooke, lives to a very old age. Later, you find the next character is James Chatham. James Chatham is, is a wealthy and a charming young man whose land borders Mr. Brooks, and he initially, pursues Dorothea and seems to be deeply in love with her. But however, she rejects, him. He recovers quickly, and then marries Celia instead. And you find that Sir James and Dorothea remain, close friends, even though Dorothea's life chooses, you know, uh, uh, exasperate him, and particularly her decisions to marrying Cassiubon, and later Ladislaw. So then we have Reverend Edward uh, Cassiobon, when he was, first introduced to him. Reverend Edward is a 45 years old bachelor, and he is, wealthy and high ranking, but socially awkward and very dull. And he's also described as ugly and dry when Sir James Chatham hears that Dorothea is engaged to him, and he laments, that Casaubon is no better than a mummy. Okay, so his house, Lowick Manor, is described as correspondingly dark and you know uh, uh, very dark, and you find Casaubon has spent, several decades. Uh, Several decades of his life on the work of the theology scholarship called the key to all mythologies. So he praises, patience and diligent work as the keys to success. But over the course of the novel, you find it becomes clear that he is paralyzed by the insecurity, and that the project will likely never be finished. So Casaubon's cousin, uh, Will Ladislaw, also reveals that, because Casaubon doesn't read German, he has not been able to, keep abreast of the latest developments in the theological scholarship, and that his project will not be taken seriously. So you find Casaubon suffers from ill health and dies only a few years after marrying Dorothea. And towards the end of his life, you find he becomes intensely suspicious of Will's, feelings about Dorothea, and thus, stipulates in his will that if Dorothea marries Will, and then she will, lose all the property she inherited from him. Then we have Eleanor. Mrs. Eleanor is, is a friend of the Brooke family, and she's born into a noble family, but married down. And her husband, Mr. Cad Warrelder, is neither high ranking nor a wealthy person, and but you find this lady is a very nosy and gossip prone woman who involves herself in the arrangement of marriages in the Middlemarch. So you find she is also very charming and delivers some of the most memorable cutting lines in the novel. Then we have Will Ladislaw. Will Ladislaw is, Casaubon's young cousin, and you find a romantic and earnest idealist. He is descended from two generations of rebellious women. His paternal grandmother, that is Julia, is married to a poor Polish musician, causing her wealthy family to abandon her, while his mother, Sarah, ran away with her family after she found out, um, their pawn breaking business, which was based on theft, and instead persuaded a career as an actress. Sarah, and Will, inherited this rebellious spirit, however, and despite his, passionate nature and engagement with politics, yeah, he can be, restless and struggles, to commit himself to pursuit that doesn't, don't, come easily. So although he is very reluctant to admit it, Ladislaw, comes to live in Middlemarch in order to be near Dorothea, who at the time is still married to Casaubon. And Mr. Brooke hires him to edit the Pioneer, and Will, devotes himself to pushing, the issue of the electoral reform. So after Casimon dies and Will and Dorothea marry, they move to London and will pursue. Will pursues a successful political career as a public figure. Then we have Mr. Nicholas Bulstrode. These have a lot of characters. So Mr. Bulstrode is a wealthy banker, and you find was not born in Middlemarch, but was rather moved there as an adult. And you find he's involved with many of these, characters like Lydgate, the John Raffles, and then Mr. Dunkirk, and you know Sarah. All these people. Then we have Lydgate. Tetrius Lydgate is an idealistic, ambitious young doctor who arrives at Middlemarch hoping, to positively reform the state of medicine in that area. And he is trained, in London, Edinburgh, and Paris, and he is passionate about the latest advancement of the medical research, and hopes, to open a medical school attached to the new hospital, which he is a director. But you see, he marries, Rosamund Vincy, whom he loves, and but who pressurizes him into spending money, and he doesn't have in order to impress others. And you find uh, then you have Mrs. Lucy Vincy is a wealthy, somewhat obnoxious Middlemarch woman who spoils her children, claiming that her adult, eldest two children, Fred and Rosamond, are, best young men and woman in, Middlemarch, Fred and Rosamond. And her sister was, married to Mr. Featherstone, and this link between her family and the Featherstone leads them, to mistakenly believe that Fred will, inherit Featherstone's lands upon his death. Rosamond Vincy is the eldest daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Vincy, and you find she is, she is renowned for her extraordinary beauty, and, practically every man in the, Middlemarch is in love with her. And you find Fred Vincy is a brother of Rosamond and eldest son of Vincy family. And when the novel, begins, he's very lazy, irresponsible, and obnoxious. And he has, failed his university exams and has thus returned home. So you find he expects to inherit land from Mr. Featherstone, and which, causes him to be overconfident and reckless with money, and he, gets his into debts through gambling, and causes, the Garth family a significant financial trouble after, Garth co-signs his debts. And then we have Mary Garth. Mary Garth is, the eldest daughter of Caleb and Mrs. Garth, and she is, plain looking but intelligent, pragmatic, honest, and honorable, and she, cares for Feathersome while he is dying. So although she is continually frustrated by Fred's bad behavior, we find she remains devoted to him, and they eventually, get married and have three children. And Mary, publishes a successful children's book but gives the author credit to Fred. Then we have Mr. Featherstone. Mr. Featherstone is Mr. Peter Featherstone, and Mr. Peter Featherstone is very rich and widely, disliked man in Middlemarch. As he dies, his family members clamor around him not because they love him, but because they hope to inherit some of his fortunes. So you find Mr. Featherstone, rides two wills. The second, which overrules the first and gives all his land to his illegitimate son, Roshua Rig. Then we have Caleb Goth. Caleb Goth is a very kind, a very honest, hardworking, and a generous man, and he is a very passionate about business. The word he uses to describe working in construction and the development of the land. Then we have fair brother of Mr. Camden, Camden Fairbrother, who is a local vicer and a bachelor, and you find he is very kind, always trying to help those who are around him, and he is not very strict or spiritual clergyman, but nonetheless you find embodies Christian values of love, generosity, and acceptance. So he develops a romantic interest in Mary Garth, but steps aside when he realizes Fred and Mary wants to to be together. So after Cassibon's death, he takes over his post as clergy man at Lowick. Next is Laurie. Laurie is is the actress Lidgett fell in love with while he lived in Paris, and during a theater performance, she stabbed her husband, a fellow actor, to death on stage, and there is a confusion over whether it was intentional, though Lidgett maintains it was an accident, and she flees to Avignon, and Lidgett follows her there, and only to have her to tell him that she stabbed her husband on purpose, and that she doesn't like husbands. So this episode gives Lidgett a lifelong fear of women. Then we have Rig, Roshua Rig is who becomes later Roshua Rig Featherstone, and after inheriting his father's land, and is the illegitimate son of Mr. Featherstone. So his inheritance of Featherstone entire fortune shocks everyone in the Middlemarch except Rig himself, and he sells Featherstone's house, Stone Court, to Bulstrode, and leaves town to fulfill his lifelong dream of opening his own money changing shop on a busy square. Then we have John uh, Raffles. John Raffles is Joshua Riggs' stepfather, and he is also an alcoholic who would beat Joshua. And you find Raffles also worked at for Bulstrode in the past, and Bulstrode hired him to find Mrs. Dunkirk's daughter Sarah, and then bribed him to pretend that Sarah couldn't be found. And Raffles, returns to the Middle March, threatening to reveal um, Bulstrode's secret. So Bulstrode tries to pay him off, but this, does not work. So Raffles contracts alcohol poisoning and dies in Bulstrode's house, and Bulstrode, hastens his death through improperly, overseeing his medical care. Next is Mrs. Dunkirk. Mrs. Dunkirk was the wife of Mr. Dunkirk. Following her husband's death, she married Bulstrode, and before her own, death, Mrs. Dunkirk attempted to find her, estranged daughter Sarah, so that Sarah could inherit her fortune. However, after Bulstrode, uh, pretended that Sarah could not be found, Bulstrode, inherited the fortune instead. So you find these are some of the major characters that you find the in this text. Then we have some of the minor characters like Mr. Humphrey. Humphrey is the rector at the Tipcon Grange and is a friend of the Brooke family, and he is unusually kind and non-judgmental. He is very his highly judgmental. You know, his very highly judgmental wife, says that this is because all he cares about is fishing. And then we have Mr. Tucker. Mr. Tucker is the curate at Cassibon's estate and Lowick Manor. So then we have Lady Chatham. Lady Chatham is who becomes, the uh, Dowager Lady Chatham after Sir James marries Celia and is Sir James' mother. We have Mr. Walter Vinci is a wealthy manufacturer, and Mrs. Uh, Wowley is one of the Featherstone's relative. Mr. Tyke is the Evangelian clergyman whom Bulstrode favors to be uh, appointed chaplain at the new hospital. And you find Mrs. Harriet Bulstrode is Bulstrode's wife and Mr. Vincey's sister. And she's a very kind, kind woman who is loyal to her husband even after scandal breaks out. John Wowley is the relative of Mr. Featherstone. Doctor, you know, uh, Spargway is one of the oldest and high-ranking doctors in the Middlemarch, whose medical skills is decidedly lacking. And you find Mrs. Plymdale. Plymdale is a high-ranking woman and a mother of Ned. And you find Mrs. Fairbrother is Mr. Fairbrother's mother, and she is a friendly but socially conservative woman. Then we have Miss Noble. Miss Noble is Mr. Fairbrother's unmarried sister. Miss Fairbrother is Miss Fairbrother is again Mr. Fairbrother's sister. Mr. Trowler is was Lydgate's roommate during the period when he was living in Paris. Then Dr. Minchin is a local Middlemarch doctor. Mr. Toller is Mr. Oh, just a minute. Just give me 2 minutes. Yeah. So we have all these, some more like Mr. Toller. Mr. Toller is again a medical practitioner in Middlemarch. Mr. Howley is a lawyer, and Reverend Edward Thesiger is Bulstrode's pastor. Tantrip is servant employed at Lowick Manor, and she accompanies Dorothy and Cassiubon to their honeymoon. Bambridge is a local horse dealer who has a habit to lending money to young uh, uh, hedonistic men. Mr. Horrock is a veterinarian in Middlemarch, and Letty Garth is one of Caleb and Mrs. Garth's daughter. You have Ben Garth is one of Caleb and Mrs. Garth's son. Alfred Garth is one of Caleb and Mrs. Garth's son, and they are forced to give away the money were saving for Alfred's, apprenticeship, which when Fred cannot pay his debts. And then we have um, Jonah Featherstone is Mr. Featherstone's relative. Mr. Trumbull is Middlemarch's auctioneer, and Mr. Strandish is Mr. Featherstone's lawyer. Hagbut is local man in the Middlemarch, and Mr. Dagley is one of Mr. Brooks tenants, and Mr. Momsey is Middlemarch grocer. Sarah is Will's mother, and she was born in the Dunkirk family, and who made, their money through pawning stolen goods. And when Sarah, learns that, she runs away from home and becomes an actress. And then we have Hiram. Hiram is a wagon driver, and Tom is Caleb's assistant. You find Christy Grath is one of Grath's children. Captain Lydgate is one of the Tertius Lydgate's high-ranking relative, and you find Rosamond adores him but Tetrius, despises him. Godwin is Tetrius's, Sir Godwin is Tetrius's, uh, rich, high-ranking uncle. And you find he refuses to lend Tetrius and Rosamond money after Rosamond, writes to him to ask. Mr. Dover is a local silversmith. Mr. Dunkirk was a man who, befriended the young Bulstrode and made Bulstrode the accountant of his pawnbroking business. The business, pawned, stole, goods. Then we have Sophie Trawler, who's a high-ranking young woman who marries Ned Plymdale. Mrs. Trawler is Sophie Trawler's mother, and Mrs. Hackbutt is Mr. Hackbutt's wife. Mm, Mrs. Garth is the wife of Caleb Garth, and she's very kind and tolerant. Though you find she recognizes that her husband is too generous. And Adolf Naumann is a German painter who is a friend with Will and also tutors him in art and painting. And Naumann is much, taken with Dorothea and regularly mocks, Casaubon. And then we have Mr. Wrench, the Vinci family's doctor. So these are all about the characters. So, what do you think? How Eliot has tried to, show his, show her characters in this Middlemarch? So many characters.
Sir, she has somehow interlinked all the characters through situations and through associations. Has tried to link. She has tried to link all the characters.
Okay. Sanjana?
Yes, sir. Uh, I believe she has tried to portray the different people belonging to different social class as per uh, carrying different set of mind. Therefore, there are so many versatile characters in this play.
Anjita?
I think she's trying to showcase the society that time, because we have a wide range of characters here, like people who is contesting for election. Then there is this clergyman, So many characters just to show the society through these characters. And yes, and they are also showing this instances where they bribe people, and for money people ends up in trouble. Even Dr. Lidgate, because of monetary issues, he ends up doing things which he is not supposed to do as a doctor. So yes, she is trying to show these things like how money and social class, the whole society, she's trying to represent to the characters here.
Alia?
Sir, the name of the novel in itself explains that Middlemarch, a province. So the author has tried to explore all the characters who lived in that province, and they all were interconnected to each other in some or the other way.
Okay. Yeah.
Sir, through the novel, she also wants to question which one is more important, whether professional goals or monetary gains. Professional, like ethical way of doing something good for others, or monetary gain that should be the more priority. Then whether love is of more importance or economic gain is more important. Where uh, where the loyalty is more important, or see just loyalty is more important, or your aim is more important. Like that, there are many questions that she raises through those characters.
Yeah.
Sir,
Uh,
I
yes.
I believe there could have been also another point of view from my side, like maybe Eliot has wanted to portray multiple perspectives, like Eliot employs multiple narrative voices, which allows the readers to experience the story from various angles. Then there is another thing, as she mentioned, I'm just forgetting her name. That is that interconnected storyline is there, which is like characters' lives intervene, illustrating the complexities of small town relationships. And one more point is maybe which is the basic point which we found in this mostly Victorian novels, that is that social commentary, that is the diverse cast represents various social classes, professions, and ideologies, which facilitates commentary on Victorian society.
Yes. So you find
Sir, can we say that this novel is mainly revolving around marriages and all and social class? So can we say that the author wants to represent or say the like how you conduct yourself in a society is a like marking bench of people's judgment. What I felt throughout this. Because I'm not very well, so I didn't go through the text and all. But going through it, I felt like she's trying to tell what you do makes your judgment in the society. And apart from this, what I felt like she wants to tell that yes, is very important, but marriage is not everything. A human life comprises of many more aspects, and also that unlike other Victorian era writers, which projected that marriage is the only life's achievement, she said she is like marriage is not only like end point. there are many other things which we can do for society, for upliftment of society, for this equality of gender. And also marriage is not a point like money based or this social advancement thing. She dwells in this love thing also, that marriages should be linked to love also. So what I felt, sir.
So if you see, mm, um, a mature, reader's ability to understand the extent range of emotions which are felt by the characters in fiction stems from the reader's own life experiences. And you find George Eliot as well, aware from when um, she wrote Middlemarch. And you find even Virginia Woolf has said that Eliot's novel is one of the few English novels for grown up people, as also told you earlier. So Middlemarch has, characters disillusioned by the self deception and the deception of others, that they see around them. And Middlemarch is about the process of understanding the experiences and mm, the perceptions of others, and you find of suffering through self deception, mm, and disillusionment, social positioning, then class consciousness, and even the ambition of self improvement with its concomitants like education and money. So we see that several um, you know researchers have also praised Eliot's novel because of the realistic characters that allow her readers to sympathetic identification and participation. You see, for example, we can say White Mayer says that the variety of meanings in Middlemarch can encompass from the moral and psychological to historical and sociological makes Eliot literary uh, um, shows the richer than that of the earlier novelists in English. And you find all the characters within her novel may engage in deceit or suffering, or suffer disillusionment. Eliot focuses on their human conditions, allows readers to connect with each character's situation. And you find this attachment, this connection, between the readers and the characters enable Eliot to present a convincingly real world, and enables her novel to convey the essential truth about human nature. For example, we can say the woman in Eliot's novel, through though it's fictional, are faced with the same life decisions and responsibilities as women in the Victorian society, isn't it?
Yes, sir, sir. Actually, she was considered also the modern novelist in being in Victorian era, and Victorian age of writing, she portrays her female characters to be very strong. They are not that submissive type ladies who are only like they are a household maker also, but not only dominated by a man, and they don't have any opinion or some sort of this, but a strong headed intellectual woman, what she showed in the knowledge novel. So this was one of the main things like which highlighted her as a modern novelist then in that Victorian era.
Yes, yes.
And so the characterization is so beautiful because if you see the main characters in this novel are Dorothea and the other plot where it's Tertius Lydgate. And in Dorothea, we can see that he represents her as a short-sighted person. So her physical problem is connected to her character also because she thought Edward is going to give her the life, help her with the life that she aspired for. And even Lydgate um, married Rosamund Vincy, thinking that she will be a beautiful woman in character also, but whereas she was only beautiful in her physical appearance. So both of these people, even this doctor who had an aspiration just like Dorothea, he wanted to find the tissue that's a building block of life, like the cell. So both of these people had beautiful aspirations in their life, but they ended up marrying the wrong person. The way she has characterized these characters are so beautiful. Because even using something like short-sightedness, she's trying to show that these people will make um, wrong decisions in their life.
Yeah. Even what would you comment about Sarah taking, the period, Victorian period?
Yes, even Sarah made the same mistake, right? I mean, in Victorian era society, women are not expected to do something like that. She chose to go with her dreams, her wishes, instead of thinking about the social image. And Sarah, yes, she ended up in trouble, right? Eventually, she's a risk. She took the risk to go against society. She ran away. Not she ran away. She is actually the victim because it's. I think Sarah's mother is the one who ran away, right? Mrs. Dunkirk. Am I right?
Sarah
So
ran
Sarah
away.
is showing that strong, decisive woman type character. Like she is strong-headed that she doesn't want to be a part of this theftful family business, and taking that decision in the Victorian age where women were only like you have to be born up like to marry and take care of your family, and taking that step going against your family was a big thing that at that time. But she stayed strong, and she showed her her character is shown as a strong character, taking your own decision against the family, against the social norms,
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
thing.
And that went against the period also.
But sir, Sarah is the a daughter of Mrs. Dunkirk, right? It
Yes.
is it is she who ran away, but Sarah did not run away. She ended up the victim, right?
No, Sarah was she left that marriage now when she came to knew
Yeah.
about the family business, which was basically on theft and the other things, if I'm not
The
wrong.
Sarah is Bulstrode's daughter, and
You know,
when she got to know about her father's wrongdoing and she was offered help, so she disowned the money and she ran away, and she was an empowered woman. She wanted to make her own ambition
And that
real.
is why she went to become an actress.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So she is Bulstrode's daughter.
Yeah. Anjita, I think you're a little bit confused with the
Yes,
characters.
yes, I got confused with Sarah here
No, you got confused, and you made me also confused.
because I
The-
mean, I see
I-
Sarah is the mother of Will Ladislaw, right?
yeah.
Yes, and I mean, Sarah's mother also ran away, isn't it? That's what I have confusion here because Will Ladislaw is the granddaughter of Mrs. Dunkirk, who marries Bulstrode later.
Yes. You find Sarah's mother is Mrs. Dunkirk.
Dunkirk, yes. Then
Yeah.
Dunkirk remarries Bulstrode.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I got confused with who ran away exactly.
Okay. Okay. So you find some of the very important, characters are, Dorothea, then Rosamund, mm, Lydgate, um, and you know mm, the other important are um, uh, Ladislaw. So all these, are quite important characters. You might get character sketch. Okay. Now coming to the themes, we'll end this class after completing the themes. So what are the themes you find in the text?
So there are various things like struggle for moral integrity, love and disillusionment, social reform and progress, then of course the role of women, then
Can
the
you tell
search.
me two important themes which are very important you find here? Two important, very important themes. Or you can
Love
say
and
sim-
marriage.
yes,
Love and
one is love
marriage.
and marriage, correct? And
The
I think
personal.
I think it's precisely staying in an unhappy marriage under social
Social conduct.
obligations.
The social conduct.
yeah, the social, yes. The social, the society, the middleman society, the social hierarchy. So you find mm, that all these marriages are very imperfect. You agree with me?
Yes, sir.
And they are all repressed, the sexuality. So you find Dorothea's marriage, to Cassiubon is a sickly clergyman, old enough to be her father, uh, is a mismatch, is an consummated union. And you find her husband, her sexual companion, is much older than she is. And you find he seems, least interested in any sort of physical aspect of their marriage. So you find Cassiopei's, disinterest can be seen during their honeymoon, which was in Rome. And you find he is mostly, involved researching his work that he was doing, key to all mythologies in the Vatican library, rather than enjoying the company of his new young bride. So you find, as a result of this, as a result of this, you find she recognizes her sexuality not by herself or by her husband, but by Ladisla, Cassiopei's cousin. And Will Ladisla is present, in Rome, studying art, and is in there, that he, gets attracted towards Dorothea. So you find Will, gives the appearance of sunny brightness, while Mr. Cassiopon, on the contrary, stood rayless. You find Trotter, notes that in the direct contrast is Eliot's use of the, form to be, brook. And you find Mr. Cassiopon, who says, as a man has no distinctive shape and he does not stand out. So this, Trotter argues, signifies, Cassiopon's inability or willingness to reproduce himself. And thus you find he does not, stand a chance against Will Ladisla. So you find Dorothea's desire for Will also increases, during her marriage to Cassiopon, but she is unaware of it until long after his death. And you find she longs to see him when not in his company. And she imagines his face in that of his grandmother's portrait, that hangs in her boudoir, and her mood is instantly elevated, and she insists that he remains in Middlemarch when he is offered an opportunity by Mr. Brooke to do so, and acknowledges that she gave her response without thinking of anything else that than my own feeling. So you find, unlike her marriage to Cassiopon, her union with Will is uh, consummated as they both give birth to a son. And her husband Will does what Cassiopon could not do, so recognizes her sexuality and allows her to recognize it for herself as well. So this is how you find uh, marriage and sexuality is reflected in the text. How George has shown. Anything to add to this? Hello, am I audible? Hello.
Yes, sir, you
Yes,
are
sir.
audible.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Sir, but towards the end of the story, George herself says um, that she, uh, what's the name? The lady,
Dorothea.
Dorothy.
Hmm.
Dorothy is happy or not, she doesn't know because she has confined herself to the household system only. So she doesn't
But
know whether she
initially,
was
you
able to.
see, that Dorothea was not happy. That is why you know the writer has tried to bring out the relationship difference between her first husband.
Yeah. She was not contented with the relationship with her
Yes,
husband.
yes, 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 yes. Anjita, would you like to add something? Alia, sorry, Prachi,
Sir,
Sanjana? Yes.
like initially, she wanted to marry that Casaubon, she was not in a frame like what I incurred. She was attracted towards the intellectual and that philosophical form, genre
What
of
he
that
was
man,
doing, the key to all
what she was
mythologies.
doing. So
Yeah,
might be because of that intelligence she was attracted, but gradually being in a marriage is not only writings or something, then you have to
yeah,
have a family life also. So
yeah,
their discontentment might have she might have thought this, or a gradual thought came into her mind that no, I'm not happy and I should leave. That what I wrote, sir, the theme of determination, what I incur throughout the novel, that
mm,
people are if people are observing that things are happening and things are not going in the correct way, then they are getting up and taking up the decision. What I saw throughout the novel, may that decision be good, may that decision have been on a negative side, but yes, they took decisions for themselves. And this is what is something new to read in a novel. uh,
yeah, yeah.
yes, sir.
Okay, Kavita. Today, why Kavita is only writing?
And sir, there is one other
Yeah.
point where Sir James wanted to marry Dorothea in the beginning. He was courting her before Casaubon, Edward
Hmm.
Casaubon. But later on, but she chose Casaubon thinking he will be the right one, like he will help her to achieve her dreams. But later we can see Sir James enacts the same cottage plans that Dorothy had in her mind in his own estate. So, as I said, her short sighted decision has also caused this disaster in her life because Sir James would have been much more eligible guy if you see in that way because he did what she wanted later.
Answer
Her
also
choice
this
was wrong.
this sorry, you may
Yeah,
finish.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes,
uh,
Prachi. Yes.
Sir, also the character of this Casaubon is what I see having a dark side, because if you are a 45 years of man, like you have that uh, good enough maturity to say no to a marriage proposal if a 18-year-old girl is placing in front of you. If you are that if intellectual, you can have you may have explained or make her understand that yes, there should be an age compatibility or some kind of compatibility which you can relate in a marriage. But this age difference, what you will be doing after 10 years, I have done before 10 years, that might will that might bring like distortions to the marriage. So he could have explained her and make her think that no, yes, you like this intelligence, but it may have gradual effects. So like unlike other man, he was also yes, getting a girl, she is pretty enough to take care of home and all, he just married. What I feel is this is the dark side of this character, and I don't really well appreciate this thing. So
So you find, if you relate this to the context of that period, Victorian period, you find,
that suffice it, sir. That
yeah,
suffice it. Because their man were made with this mentality that yes, women are meant to be married and they are homemakers. So get a girl, marry it, and she'll take care of your home. So he was in that frame only. But as shown, he was writing a book. He's having that intellectual. He's having some views. So according to like my point of view, while reading a book, he must have placed some kind of like a validate point that why should you marry me? I'm so much elder to you. I have gone through your age, and I have been when you were talking about those sexual pleasures also, sir, he has been through him. it. So you cannot like, it is not up to his mind now that those are also the things that have to be carried on. His major interest was in writing, so he could have explained her earlier also. What I see, sir.
Sir, it is
It's
mentioned in the
Casaubon who proposed.
Sir, it is mentioned in the novel that they both, Dorothea and Casimir, जो भी नाम है sir, they both had wrong perception of each other. So he
Yes,
thought
yes,
that
yes.
Dorothea would be submissive and she would accept all whatever he tells her, but she wasn't.
So she is he is actually carrying out that Victorian age era man
Yes,
idea.
yes, yes.
He was
He
none
has the
like.
same he has the
You know,
same ideology
they
that
used
women
to,
are meant to be submissive.
yes, submissive. Yes, yes.
Yes, yes. But actually, the character of Dorothea is never shown very submissive. Never. Like, lastly, I don't know why it comes lastly, and it is that she is now a homemaker and now she is satisfied. Why it came like that? But initially, like reading throughout, she was very decisive and determined person.
Yeah, Anjita, you were saying something?
Yes, because Prachi was mentioning Casaubon should have made her understand, but actually it's Casaubon who proposed Dorothea. Even though Dorothea was already impressed, Casaubon is the one who made the proposal towards Dorothea, and
Yes,
she
yes, that's
accepted.
what I was saying. Like,
Yeah,
if it,
but
it
I mean,
doesn't represent you
her,
as a like
yeah,
intellectual man, then that is what my point was. That he only came with this thought ki we should marry, and then your marriage is not being successful. Also, you are not going happy in the marriage. So it was more kind of a responsibility on Casaubon point rather than on Dorothea's side, because she was very young to understand all this thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Kavita has written Cassiubon's coldness, jealousy, and desire for control trap Dorotheus in a in a stifling, loveless marriage, but it is also serves as a catalyst for her personal growth. How? Could you please explain, Kavita? Kavita, can you please come, on your audio?
Yes, sir. It serves as a catalyst for her to realize her personal growth by marrying Lydgate later on.
What do you mean by personal growth? Means how? How would you relate that?
s- I think she realized her gender roles later on, and she respected her own emotions rather than that she made a marriage to this husband who later on she realized that it is a big tragedy. So she goes on with her own personal intellectual spirits.
Okay, but how will it be accepted? Means all. Okay, it's your analysis.
Yes, the option that she took after this marriage is a good plot actually. Good thing that she has taken a good decision after this
Yeah.
tragedy.
Mhm.
So that is like a lesson after you get from your mistakes.
Yes, yes. But but initially that was a very wrong decision, you know. But yeah, this is because taking the Victorian period, into consideration, the text has been written. So marrying Dorothea marrying Cassiubon was based on that of that area only. Coming to the next one is yes, I was talking about the social hierarchy of in the Middle March society. So you find Will and Cassiubon are not on equal on social grounds, but Will's grandmother disinherited because she made what they called as uh, mesalliance through, though there was nothing to be said against her husband except that he was a Polish refugee who gave lessons for his breads. So you find this, disgrace heritage makes Will suspect in Middlemarch society as an object of scorn, and his marriage to Dorothea, you find, upsets the conventional economy of marriage and the distribution of property in the Middlemarch. So you find marrying Will, Dorothea, emphatically, you can find renounce her inheritance as she and Will declare, their love for each other, and saying, I don't mind about poverty. I hate my wealth. We could live quite well on my own fortune, and it is too much. 700 a year. I want so little. No new clothes, and I will learn what everything costs. And thereby, marrying Will, she defies all the Middlemarch society, and she doesn't disregard Will's heritage, rather seems to reveal in it. So that's all about the the social hierarchy that you find, which is as futile. Anything that you would like to add?
Sir, for Dorothea, initially also there was no matter of money or social advancement, I guess. Like initially also she had this prospect of helping Casbon in his works, and
So,
she was
back of
also.
the mind, probably she had, that because she will help this man, she will have that, that thing for, to, and they will make money and they will progress.
And so, Casaubon was already a good to do man. So, what
Yes.
I thought, like, she was in a idea of helping needy people. So maybe she married because of his wealth, she could help the needies, and also that intellectual portion was also being satisfied there. So she planned like this, but gradually it didn't work out in any way. But the thought of this helpful nature and like money minded, she was never sort of that.
Uh, yes, you can put this as your analysis.
Because in initially also when she was like marrying a man of 45 years is a big decision, and she is not a I mean she is not a
See,
foolish
because
girl.
see,
She
we
is being
cannot.
shown a very intelligent intellectual character in the novel.
Yeah,
So
but
while
then
taking that decision, sorry sir, you must
yeah,
continue.
no, no. What I was telling is, getting married to a 45 years man is, that there you can see even, this how the people, that period of time, even though they were the age difference, people were not seeing because of the male dominated society.
Right, right.
Okay, so it is not that she got married. She could have denied it was a proposal, but she got married because of the influence of the society.
Okay, sir.
Okay,
Okay.
one we
Nice.
can consider that one is the influence, and second is, yes, she was very attracted towards the work that he was doing.
The work he was doing.
Yes, yes,
Yes, sir.
yes. Alia, you would like to add?
Sir, I agree with what she says.
Okay, okay. Okay, then please read this text because mm, you need to remember all the characters, so that you can write the answers well.
So there are so many characters.
Yeah,
Each character.
yeah, there are many characters as compared to the other novels. You find this has too many characters.
Sir, I feel like she wrote in this way that there are so many characters. Any one of character you can relate. You can find some character relating to your personal life, and that's what readers were so much connected with this novel, because yes, you can find, oh, this character is related to somewhat my life.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
even I
Yes.
feel there is spectrum of personalities in this
Right,
novel.
right, right.
Yes, yes, yes. Correct. Correct. Okay, so can we end the class for today?
Yes. Sir,
Okay.
is there class tomorrow, sir?
Yeah, yeah. Tomorrow we have, because I will not be able to take class in the next, week. I will tell you. It's probably Tuesday and Wednesday, because I'll be traveling out. So tomorrow we'll have the class. Okay.
What
Okay, sir.
time, sir?
Thank you, sir. Good
Same
day.
same time, sir.
Thank you. Yeah,
You only
thank you, sir.
propose. So sorry, sorry,
Sir,
sorry.
tomorrow it
Tomorrow
was from
11:30 one, sir.
11 to
No, no,
1.
tomorrow
11:30.
is, I think, 11:30 to 1:30, right?
11:30
Yeah.
to 1:30,
Yes.
yes,
Yeah,
sir.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Sorry, sorry. It's 11:30 to 1:30 tomorrow. Okay.
Thank you,
So
sir.
Okay.
tomorrow
Thank
we'll
you,
Thank.
take
sir.
the next block, right? Heart of Darkness,
Yes,
Joseph
heart of
Conrad.
yes, we'll do the heart of
Okay.
darkness tomorrow.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you,
Okay.
sir.
Thank
Good day,
you.
sir.
Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.